welcome back to Mr. Heins Explains, everybody. Today we're going to be taking our last look at what are called phrases with the placement of phrases, or specifically misplacement of phrases. So we're going to talk about misplaced phrases. So a misplaced phrase is obviously a phrase that appears to modify a word that isn't intended. So this is when it looks like it's describing something that actually isn't what it's describing. So I give you the example down below. Mrs. Diaz left the house covered in fur. So you're saying covered in fur, well, it's right next to the word house. So is it describing the house covered in fur? So all we're doing with this whole thing, with misplaced and dangling phrases, is we're editing our sentences so that they sound like they make sense. So rather than saying Mrs. Diaz left the house covered in fur, we'd say Mrs. Diaz covered in fur left the house. So it's just clarifying. That's really all it is. So rather than learning a new concept like participial phrases in this notes, we're just talking about editing it for clarity. So another type of misplaced phrase is what we call a dangling phrase. And this one's just awkward. It's, again, a phrase, but this one modifies a word that doesn't appear in the sentence. Oh, didn't give myself enough space. It doesn't appear in the sentence. You don't quite know where the phrase is modifying. So in our example, walking to town, the twisted signpost was confusing. We have this phrase here, walking to town, but it doesn't explicitly tell us who or what is walking to town. It's obviously not the signpost. We can probably guess it's like a person or a thing, but it doesn't tell us explicitly in the sentence, so it's dangling. It doesn't appear to be modifying anything. So we'd fix it like, walking to town, we were confused by the twisted signpost. All right? That's all that this is. And we're working on our editing skills and clarity. So again, kind of similar to what we did with participles and gerunds, what I'd like you to do is I gave you a bunch of sentences that have either misplaced or dangling phrases. Your job is to take them and change them. And yes, you do need to rewrite them. So, example, if I were to give this sentence, the new pediatric ward accepts all patients built by a grant, I'd say, okay, this thing looks like it's describing patients. We built patients with a grant. That doesn't make any sense. So I'd change it to say the new pediatric ward built by a grant. Oh, look, now it's describing the word ward, and it's accepting all patients. Okay? So you have 6 sentences here. Here are the sentences here. Here's a chance to correct them all below. All right, go ahead and finish that up and then submit it for a check.